We are live. Good morning, TikTok. Good morning, YouTube. It is a magnificent day here in the always sunny South where the grass truly is greener. Oh man, we got an exciting discussion to have today. We're going to talk about science. We're going to talk about the proper way to teach children science. We're going to talk a little bit about the big news that happened over the weekend with the Smortions and the true Margaret Sanger and how to teach your children properly. Hey, Alicia, good morning. Always happy to have you here. And we are about to crush today. And by the way, Alicia, you gave me the idea on my Margaret Sanger video. That was you. So that was, I probably could have gone a little harder in the paint, but I always got to be careful with how I word things because, the crazy silencers like to silence me for repeating things that people like Margaret Sanger say. So, anyway, but we're going to start by talking about teaching children science and the proper way to learn it because the way that they're taught in public school is wrong. Children are sitting down and they're given textbooks and they're told to memorize this scientific fact or this scientific fact, whatever it might be. And a lot of times what these textbooks will do is they will accurately point out a scientific phenomena and say, this is the reason that phenomena took place. And that could be accurate. It might be, it might not. But the truth of the matter is the child never learns how to determine if that scientific claim is accurate or not. And ultimately, when they study science, hey, Wonka Mama, ultimately, when they study science, the real objective should be to teach them how to use the scientific method and use their discernment to find out if a scientific claim is accurate or it's false. And after March of 2020 and the events that took place in March of 2020 and dominated the world for the last couple of years before they decided to move on from that, because their agenda, before they moved on from that agenda, right? We got firsthand insight into just how many people are completely and utterly incapable of telling the difference between authoritative science or God's science or the religion of science and sound, tested, reliable, verifiable science, right? Test, retest, reliability, scientific method, science. Because what you had is you had Mr. Wants to Give You an Ouchie go on television and he would say that this is the authoritative position and if you go against it, you are a denier. But what am I denying? What is this, a religion? What are you talking about? But so many people were unable to see through that because they came through the public school system and they were taught science in a manner through which, by the way, I'm going to go back and answer every one of your questions as I do on every one of my streams. I just like to get through my initially planned rant first. But so many of these people, when they came through the public school system, they were taught science in a certain way. And that way was textbooks would point out an effect that happens in nature, right? And they would say, this is an effect, and now memorize the cause of that effect, right? And that cause, right, it could be accurate, it could be wrong, but it doesn't matter because they never teach the children. I mean, yes, they cover it, but they don't really teach it. It's not the primary focus of their education, right? Right? They don't make the primary focus of children's education figuring out what is right and what is wrong through the scientific method, right? Through the scientific method. And ultimately, if you want your child to have discernment and to be able to question Mr. Wants to Give You an Ouchie the next time they roll out whatever they roll out, then ultimately your children are going to have to learn the scientific method. And that should be done over and over and over again, right? So yesterday I posted a video on the Cubs to Bears channel because now I want to give you some concrete examples of how you can go about teaching your children the scientific method, because it really isn't that complicated. And thank you for muting that person. I don't respect anyone that says just wrong, right? If you think I'm wrong, then state the reason why I'm wrong. If you just write wrong, you're obnoxious and you're not adding any value to our conversation. So let's say you have a young child and you want to teach them the scientific method. What you can do is go on. I should be a professional speaker. I kind of am. I do this, 3 to 5 times a week with a live audience. So I've gotten much better at my public speaking, but I definitely have a lot of room to grow for sure. So let's say you and your child, you want to teach them the scientific method, and you go out on a nature walk. You go out on a nature walk and you collect whatever they want to collect. I don't care what it is. They collect leaves, sticks, flowers, grass, a dead bug. Yeah, I don't care. Whatever they want to collect. My son would probably pick up a bunch of bugs because he's obsessed with them, to the point where he rescued a worm this weekend. And although I appreciate how sweet he is, he not only rescued the worm, but before he put it in the dirt, because it was stuck in the sun, he picked it up, put water on it, brought it over to the dirt. And before he put it in the dirt, my son proceeded to give the worm a kiss, which, I appreciate how sweet and loving he is, and he wanted to save the worm. But I was like, oh, Brady, please don't kiss the worm. But I digress. So you go on a nature walk and you collect pine cones and sticks and leaves, and you can do a lot of fun stuff on the side with this. Like, you can have them categorize, you can have them do observations. So can you separate your items by what is smooth, what is hard, what is rough, what is tough, what is, you guys get it. What is soft, by colors, whatever you want. But ultimately what I want you to do for this assignment is to take out construction paper and take that construction paper and lay it out early in the morning on a nice sunny day. And then take the leaves. Marine Princess is in the house. Then take the leaves, and Marine Princess ditched me for a while, and it hurt, but she's back now. So we lay out the construction paper and we put the leaves on it, and then you take a piece of glass. I don't care what it is, any piece of glass, and you lay the glass over the leaves on the construction paper, and you leave that in the sun. I know, and Nicole told me what happened with the housing situation. Sorry to hear about that. So you take the leaves, you put it on the paper, and you put the glass on it, right? And then you leave it in the sun for, you probably don't have to leave it this long, but you could just forget about it. Set it, forget it. Leave it in the sun for like 6, 7, 8 hours. And at the end of the day, go back and check on it. And when you go back and check on it, what you'll see, or what you should see, is that the imprint of the leaf is now, the leaf is imprinted onto your construction paper, because the ultraviolet rays from the sun have a chemical reaction on the paper. So the paper that the rays are hitting is altered by the sun, but the leaf blocks part of the paper from getting exposed to those ultraviolet rays. So it's like you almost tan, right? It's like you tan or tattoo a leaf into that construction paper. Now, that's what they would have you do for most scientific experiments with kids, right? And they would say, that's great, now you study ultraviolet radiation, and that's great. But I would argue that you should do it a little bit differently. That before, or actually because it takes 6 hours, so as soon as you take the leaf, actually no, do it beforehand. before you do the assignment, I want them to do a little bit of reading. They can watch a video. There's 3-minute YouTube videos on ultraviolet radiation, how it affects our skin, all that stuff, or you could read to them about it. But you have them study ultraviolet radiation. You have them collect their stuff, and you have them formulate a hypothesis as to what will happen to the paper when you leave it in the sun with the leaf on it, right? And you could guide them and talk to them, say, so is the part of the paper that is covered by the leaf going to be exposed to the sun? No. Why not? Because the leaf is blocking the paper from getting direct sun rays. Okay, so what is your guess? What is your educated guess? What is your hypothesis as to what will happen to the part of the paper that doesn't have the leaf? I mean, the part of the paper that is covered by the leaf. Do you think it will look different than the rest of the paper? And they can make an hypothesis. But then you say, we have to, if we know, in order to figure out if this is accurate, we have to do something called the scientific method. And they're like, oh, what's the method? And you talk to them about, well, you made an observation, you did a little research, you made a hypothesis, but if we're going to test this accurately, we need controls. We need to know what our variables are. What are controls? What are variables? Well, our variables, let's talk about them. Well, our independent variable is the leaf on the paper, right? In that we're blocking the sun with the leaf from getting to the paper. So that's the variable that we could change. We could put a leaf down, we could put a Lego down, right? We can do all types of stuff, right? But that's our variable. Is the leaf blocking the sun rays, and what effect will that have? Right? And the dependent variable is what happens underneath that leaf, right? What is the leaf manipulating? The dependent variable is what happens to the paper after we leave it in the sun all day, right? That's what we're measuring. We measure our dependent variable, and we mess with the dependent variable with the leaf or whatever other independent variable we want. So you teach them about independent variables, dependent variables, and you understand this language is complex, but when you do this from when they're a child, it's like any other language. It starts to become commonplace to them. And then you say what we need to do is we need to set up a control. What's a control? Well, a separate part of the experiment that allows us to contrast, a separate part of our experiment that's different from what we did with our experiment. So for example, we have a piece of construction paper with a leaf on it. We could set up controls. So what we can do is then we could take a piece of construction paper and not put a leaf on it. And now we have a scientific control. That paper with no leaf on it is our control. We could also, because we have the glass over the leaf, over the paper and the leaf, right? Because you have the construction paper, the leaf on it, and glass over the leaf. We can say, well, we could also do a piece of paper with just a leaf, right? That's another control. And we could do another piece of paper with just glass on it and no leaf. And that's a control. And you're showing them how you could set up an experiment with all of these different controls, right? So you could say, oh, in this scenario, right? Because afterwards, when you do the experiment, you could say, okay, so our paper that had the leaf on it and the construction paper had this effect. Our paper on it that had just the leaf on it had this effect. Our paper that had just the glass on it had this effect. And our paper that had nothing on it had this effect. And then, based on that data they collect with their controls, they can analyze the data. You can have them analyze the data and draw a conclusion as to what they think happened based on their scientific experiment. And what they're learning is how to identify independent variables, how to manipulate independent variables, right? Because even within all the controls, you could say, okay, so in one of these experiments we're doing simultaneously, we have a piece of construction paper with the glass over it. In this scenario, what is our independent variable? what are we manipulating in the experiment? And they'll think about it and go, the glass? Right. The glass is your independent variable. And what is your dependent variable? The dependent variable is what happens to the paper? Yes, that's your dependent variable. It's dependent on the independent variable, right? So within all of this, you're reinforcing. We have dependent variables, we have independent variables, and setting up these controls. And then you analyze the data, and you from there you have them draw their own conclusions. And from there, if you want, you can have them do further experiments and say, okay, so based on your research as to what ultraviolet rays are, Lou, there's a squirrel in the garden. Lou, there's a squirrel in the garden. Go, go. Squirrel, go. In the garden. You don't see it. Go, get it. They try to eat my food. Go. Garden. She's not going. I've been training her to chase the squirrels, and she's been doing a pretty good job of it, but when she doesn't see the squirrel, she doesn't quite know what I'm talking about yet. Actually, she does. I just think she doesn't know where it is. She knows what a squirrel is. She likes chasing them. So anyway, they steal all my peaches and my fruit that I grow. But, yeah, little bastards. So it's about teaching children the scientific method. And from there, you can get more complex as they get older. But this is how we want to teach them science, because this is what involves them, one, understanding the difference between authoritative science and, actual fact-based, data-tested, proven science, like real scientific method science, right? And this is how we create critical thinkers. And one of the things that my wife and I have been working on right now for members of our homeschool community is we are putting together our original science curriculum, and it will be completely based around the scientific method, independent variables, dependent variables, setting up controls, and teaching children how to use their discernment to analyze what's happening in the world around them, right? So we're really excited about that, and last night I was up until about 12:30, which is late for me, and I've been putting together all of these sheets where their children make their own observations, they do their own research. What did you learn from your research? Then what is the scientific method? They learn about the method. Then a separate sheet, what is the independent variable? All these sheets I've been making. What is a dependent variable? What is a control? All right, so based on this experiment, what will your hypothesis be? That's its own sheet. Then another sheet, what is the experiment? Can you lay out the steps of the experiment you'll be setting up, right? Then another sheet, what data did you learn? What data did you gain from the experiment? And another sheet, what is your conclusion and what questions do you have after doing the experiment? So we're setting up all of these really cool, really a program we're setting up where children will be doing the scientific method time and time again. And I can't tell you how excited I am that we're rolling this out. For those of you in our community, this is why I wanted to take a little bit of a hiatus, a summer break from our live classes, because what we're setting up right now is really, it's going to be awesome. And then on top of it, I'm focused on the science right now, but I want to do the same thing with historical documents, and I want to set up an English program for the children. I really want to take what we're doing to the next level with Homeschools Connected, and we're doing that right now aggressively with the science. I think the science is a good place to start, and I'm also going to start doing it a little bit with the historical documents. Like the video I posted right before this on classicallearner.com was on Margaret Sanger. And I was late because I thought I could do this quickly, and turns out they hide this stuff pretty well. But I'm quite a researcher. So I was trying to research documents on primary writings of Margaret Sanger, specifically to her opinion on you know what type of thing, right? You can't talk about it. You know what type of thing that I wanted her opinion on. And I found it. And so I made a video showing people how to find her primary writings. And I was saying that this is a great lesson for middle school and high school students, not only to read the writings, but how to find it, where to find it, to get primary documents, and then to read the primary documents, because once they read this primary document, it will forever shatter the narrative around Margaret Sanger, that she is just this great lady. She was a wretched human being. She is everything that last week there was a crazy, unhinged, indoctrinated leftist in here accusing me of being all of these things. And they would love Margaret Sanger. Understand that. They would love Margaret Sanger. She is everything that person falsely accuses me of being, right? Like, she is the real definition of what a wretched ism of a person is, right? Like, I reject what she is around every corner. And that relates as to what she is around women, what she is around families, what she is to people that were different than her. Understand that? How she viewed people that were different than her and her plans for them, and what she meant to humanity. A wretched human being, to the point where I can't repeat on here what she wrote. You understand? I can't even repeat it, what she wrote. And I'm not saying to read it because, I'm not saying she was great. I'm saying go read it because she's a wretched human being, and people should know what she really was, right? And people should know what she really stood for. And people should know what her organization, Planned Parenthood, really is, and what her organization, Planned Parenthood, really stood for. So if you go to the classicallearner.com TikTok channel, or I'll post it to Instagram later today, I will show you how to get to that document, or Homeschools Connected. It's in there, $10 a month, promo code FREEDOM, right? How to get to that document, and your children could read firsthand as to what Margaret Sanger and Planned Parenthood truly are, their true motives, their true objectives, and then you could cross-reference it. If you look up, I should have put this in my video, you should cross-reference that with, look up abortions by demographic over the last 50 years, and then your children could do an assignment as to, has Planned Parenthood remained on task with the original objective set forth by their founder, Margaret Sanger? And of course, the answer to that will be a resounding yes, they have. And then you'll see just how disgusting it really is. And then you'll see just how disgusting the system is. A system that likes to divide people based on outward characteristics, but will lie about what Margaret Sanger is because the system really stands for what she stood for. You understand? That's what the system stands for. Right? So, once you understand what she is, and then you see how children are taught in school, you see how the media reports on this type of thing, you see how Hollywood reports on this type of thing, then you realize, wait a second, everything they're saying is a lie. Everything that Hollywood and the media and the school system claims to stand for is an inversion of reality. They stand for the opposite of that. It's subversion, it's inversion, it's subversion, it's inversion. And then you understand that, like JFK said in his Secret Society speech, there is a group of people who attack America through covert means, through the Department of Education, which is the Department of Indoctrination. We are going to take back the United States of America. I got a lot of flack I was so excited about the Supreme Court doing something good. It actually made me rethink, because I've grown so cynical on politics because they're not the answer, and all of the Republicans are such corrupt, you know what, right? They're such corrupt, lying, but I have to say, there were 2 Supreme Court rulings this week that they're very powerful. I gotta say that. And maybe they're part of an agenda, maybe their plans have been working so well with the birth above replacement rate in the United States being 1.7 and what they've rolled out the last few years, right? Like maybe their plans are working so well that the controllers were like, oh crap, we need to stop abortions. Like that really might be what happened. I don't know. But on a surface level, on a face level, man, between the ruling in New York with the right to bear arms and then the ruling on abortions, right? I gotta say, I mean, and then my experience coming from a democratically controlled New York versus it like hurts me to say this stuff because I really don't like I don't like them at all. But a Republican controlled southern state and to see the contrast, it's like wow. Not only will I not get a vasectomy, but I'm going to have lots of children. I'm going to homeschool them, and I'm going to educate them to think just like me. And I run a homeschool community, and I'm going to educate lots and lots and lots of children to think just like me. So you can take your little pipe dream there and go to that. And the notion that you're like, this is about women's choice. Okay, what if I understand that. Like if you want to go abort a baby boy, I understand that. But what if it's a baby girl? Doesn't she get a choice? What, baby girls don't get a choice? Yeah, I understand that. Yeah. You can use a government sanctioned murder exception on a baby boy, but what about a baby girl? She doesn't get a choice? A baby girl doesn't get a choice? How can you say that? Oh, and by the way, I propose that right now, all of the money earmarked for Planned Parenthood, and I will vote for this. I will use my influence. And by the way, I have some politicians on speed dial. I will use my influence to start a movement to have all money earmarked for Planned Parenthood shifted to Christian groups that specialize in helping mothers that have unwanted pregnancies, bringing those babies to term, and getting those either getting those mothers help after pregnancy, or if they don't want the baby, getting those babies properly fostered. All of that money earmarked for Planned Parenthood should go to those Christian groups. And if you don't support that, now, right, that means you hate women. You want women to have no support? How could you say that? How could you say that you don't want these women who are bringing babies to term to not have support? If you don't support shifting all of that money from Planned Parenthood to Christian groups, then you hate women. Do you hate women? Do you hate women? Answer the question. It makes me sick. And you hate children because you want those children not to have the resources they need. You don't want their mothers to have the funding and the help that they could get from Christian groups. Why does it need to be Christian? Because it's Christian groups that do it. If there's other groups that do it, I'm fine, but it's Christian groups that do it. In fact, I was in my church on Sunday, and my pastor, he was crushing it. And he was talking about how, yeah, of course we're happy about the ruling, but the ruling doesn't mean anything because we don't get our sovereignty. My pastor was crushing it. We don't get our sovereignty from government. That ultimately our test as a Christian is how we help these mothers. What will we do to help these mothers? And how will we help organizations financially with volunteer work? These organizations that are set forth to help these mothers. And he asked parents to step up, to stand up who foster children. And parents in my church just stood up because they've been fostering children. And by the way, for anyone that likes to rip on Christian America and whatnot, since I moved to the South, where it's a more religious place, I can't tell you how many, I meet people all the time that have foster children. Like literally every week, I meet a parent who fosters children. It is a culture here. These people take it seriously. They take responsibility. And I already spoke with Nicole because when the plan is right, when the time is right, we plan on fostering a child. And I cannot wait to do it. Oh, they didn't like those arguments, right? Oh, you don't want that Planned Parenthood money going to Christian groups that want to help parents? You're anti-women. You're against women. I can't believe that someone who is so against women would be in my chat. I can't believe that. And I can't believe they don't want baby girls to have a choice. You know, I understand, like baby boys, why would a baby boy get a choice as if it gets to live or not? I understand that, right? Guys shouldn't have a choice in that. But a baby girl, you would take away a choice from a baby girl? That is disgusting and that is sexist, and I reject it. I reject it at every turn. How's that Black Mirror look? How's that look? You like that Black Mirror? What'd you think? You were going to shame me? You're in the wrong saloon, partner. Do you know who I am? Oh my God. Oh my God, he's so cocky. I'm not cocky, but I don't believe in false humility. You know how many people have tried to shame me? You know the stuff, the ridiculous attacks I've had to endure doing this? And then you come at me with your immoral, reprehensible worldview and try to shame me? Look in the mirror. Look at you, like you think this is even a debate, right? Like to me, I don't even know if I can make this argument because social media, but to me, it's the equivalent of like Harvey Weinstein trying to justify what he did, or Bill Cosby trying to justify what they did. And he's like, why don't you see it? It's not a discussion. There's no justifying it. You think you could justify sucking a human being through a vacuum and cutting them up in a blender? You think this is a discussion? Why? Because culture has normalized it? Why don't you go read the primary documents on Margaret Sanger where this started? Just because something has been normalized, it is egregious. It is embarrassing that a country that claims to be a beacon of human liberty would allow that. Oh, but it is a human right issue. Yeah, it is a human right issue. As in, babies have human rights. They're human beings. They have rights. Oh no, but it's a clump of cells. Do you hear yourself? Do you hear what you advocate for? It is disgusting. It is reprehensible. It is reprehensible. Did I get it? I'm going to go back and read some comments. I'm going to get you. Keep flying around me, mosquito. I'm going to tag you back. I mean, you'll probably bite me, but I'm going to tag you back. And when I tag you, it's going to hurt more than when you tag me. You understand? I don't like mosquitoes. I view... I'm not going to go there, but there was a great Margaret Sanger comment right there, right? You guys know what she stands for. Mm-hmm. All right. Yeah, the CIA bugs are back, and they're coming for me. By the way, for anyone interested in what I do in my homeschool community, you can find it at www.classicallearner.com. We are changing the world, and for even people that don't have children, you should support what I do. Because we are making a difference in the world, and like I said, we are going to take back our country. I got a lot of shame on Instagram. People told me to shut up and dribble. They told me to stick to educating when I started talking about smortions. Stick to educating. And I made a post on my story, most popular story I ever did, by the way, that I'm not just an educator. I'm a truther. I'm a culture builder. I love my country. So understand that. This is the land of my forefathers. This is the land that my father fought for. This is the land that my grandfather fought for. This is the land of people I have immense respect for that did amazing things to advance real human liberty. And they probably would have put right in the Constitution that unborn babies have constitutional rights, but they probably didn't consider that our society could get that satanic. They were like, what do you mean? You're going to start killing their babies? They're like, what do you mean? You're telling me that women are going to do that to their own babies? You know what my favorite amendment to the Constitution is? My favorite amendment to the Constitution is the Ninth Amendment. And it's never talked about because the Ninth Amendment states that just because something is not put in this document does not mean that you are denied that right. Does not mean that you are denied that right. You have rights outside of the Bill of Rights because our rights do not come from the Bill of Rights. Our rights come from God. And the Bill of Rights was simply a document to restrict